Well, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up to my stepmum walking in saying, go help lift stuff up around town, help Nan and Pop lift stuff in the butcher shop. And yeah.
They own the butcher shop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we went down there and helped lift some stuff up. Then we stood around for a little bit, watched the water.
And what's the mood? People are seeing the water, but is there any sort of panic or concern?
No, it was just like it was a normal flood. Like, that's how high it usually gets. Like that 9, 10-ish, maybe like max and 10. So yeah, changed real quick.
Mackie, you're the older and wiser one of the duo.
No, I'm a bit wiser, but I'm the older, yeah. Nah, probably a bit wiser. Pretty much, yeah, 3 o'clock Monday morning, getting a bang on the door. So our next door neighbour, all across the road, Johnny Dukes, he's a part of the SES, and his phone will alert him, like it goes off when the gauge out the road, Smithfield, when it's at a certain level.
Yep.
So yeah, he knew, so he come and told us, and then everyone was already on the move in the town, and pretty much my parents run the pub here in town.
Oh,
and,
okay.
So we thought, if it's going to go half a metre through the shed, it's probably going to go through the pub too. So we're like, we'll move stuff up about a foot, a bit more, just lounges and a few other items that we could sort of move up, freezers and fridges. And then one of my mates, his missus' mum owns a clothes shop there in town. And so they wanted to move all the clothes out of that. And yeah, just finished doing that. And that took off a fair while. There's a bloody lot of clothes in there.
At what point do you stop worrying about property like clothes and gear and start worrying about people?
When you're knee deep, waist deep, and it's coming and it's flowing hard. So that's pretty much what happened. Like we went up to do some sandbagging and then yeah, went for a drive out the road, and that's when we seen it was coming. Come back into town and grabbed that elderly lady. She was just trying to walk down the street, like I knew her, like I do everyone else in the town. So yeah.
Have you got Tom at this point?
Yeah, Tommy was with me. That's when we drove out the road.
Where'd you find him? By the side of the road helping?
He was just in town, in the centre of town there, where everyone's there in the morning. It's a big event. It's everyone comes down and watches the water rise. And
as you go along, what are you seeing?
Just coming up and people just running around everywhere. Scared shitless.
Yeah. So you just give him a wave and keep going?
Oh, we pulled up, got some lady and put her in the ute because the water was probably about knee deep then.
So
yeah,
she's trying to walk through the current?
Yeah, and it's like we were going along in the ute. I didn't want to go too fast because we were hoping that was going to be it, It was 2 foot in the street. And so I thought, if this is it, I don't want to speed through the water because I'm going to make waves, which are going to send into people's houses that wouldn't already be wet yet. So obviously that wasn't the case. So yeah, I was idling along with the water, and I was doing almost 10 k's an hour, 15 k's an hour.
That's how fast the water.
Which doesn't sound fast,
no.
But I tell you what, when you got like that amount of force pushing against you, it's hard enough to walk for an elderly lady. So
so you got out of your ute and walked towards her?
I stayed in my ute just in if shit was gonna, shit was gonna hit the fan or something happened. So I just stay in my ute, and he jumped out and grabbed her. She was sort of she was able, only just. But
and you guided her back to the ute, Thomas?
Yeah.
Chucked her in the back of the ute, yeah.
And then, went down and grabbed her husband, was walking down the street, and he didn't even know what to do. He's just never seen this before. He's lived in Yarra his whole life. And so he's jumped in his ute and sort of followed me down to the pool there, and we dropped him off and headed back up, and sort of come around the pub corner there in my ute, and the wave was sort of just up over my bonnet, and when I sort of come around there with a bit of speed, the water went up over the windscreen.
Oh wow.
And we just sitting there not going anywhere because the back started to float, so no traction, and I wasn't in full drive. anyway, so eventually it sort of gripped and grabbed and went.
And we tried going back up to move stuff in his house, but by the time we got up there, it was already waist deep water. So, and yeah, so we just didn't worry about going in helping the house. And then there was another car there with a family in it, which it ended up getting flooded. So we got the family out, put the few kids in the back and the one in the front, and then we drove back up here.
What do you mean got the family out? What?
They were in the car. They were half out already. We just helped them get in the ute and get on the back and that.
So their car is in the floodwater.
Yeah.
And they've obviously lost control.
It's just stopped because the water's killed the car.
And they can't get out of the car.
I got out, they opened up the doors and got out.
Yeah, they can't like go for a walk or anything.
No, it's way too quick just to get out and go for a walk, yeah.
Yeah. And young kids?
The youngest would have been about, what, 5? 3.
Yeah.
Which we put her in the cab, and then there was another 2 or 3 girls, so we just chucked them on the back.
So you've teamed up as a little bit of a rescue team. Was that sort of in your mind that you're going to help as many people as you can?
Yeah, just needed help, just help them. And we brought them up here and,
Up here at the showground?
Yeah.
And you drop them off, and then you head back into town?
We went back.
And then there was another lady holding onto a sign pole, like a signpost, and Tommy grabbed her and helped her onto the ute, and then we headed back down and...
Wait a moment.
Yeah.
So she's like holding onto this post,
trying
and the current's taking her, and she's holding on.
Yeah, and she's getting hit by canola, and like it was, she was scared. And then
how many can you take at once in the ute? You're grabbing people like in 1s and 2s, dropping them off somewhere and going back?
No, as many as I could. The more weight I had in the ute, the better, really.
Okay, so how many would be on your ute at maximum?
So we grabbed them people and the kids and that, and come down to Oberon Street here, which is where the pool is on that street. And we thought, the water's not going to get here, and then next minute it's there, and so you just sort of kept on moving, creeping up the street more and more. People were trying to come up the street, and that's when the old mate, I watched him. So my next door neighbour, his ute was still parked down the pool there, and he wanted to get it because it was, it's got a lot of tools in the back and it's whatever, and so there's a cross street, and the water raging down there like you wouldn't believe, like. Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to describe. It was like it was a river just there, in the street, and that's when old mates got washed off the road and ended up at his joint.
And his car got picked up by the water and slammed inside of our house.
Right.
So then stepmum kicked the window out so then he could climb through, and he ended up helping them get on the roof. So then they were safe, sort of thing.
He ended up right opposite your window.
He was on the house.
He was on the house.
He was in it, so he could go out his driver's side window and end up in our house. Which is lucky for him. If it wasn't for him, they'd be probably still stuck in the house, sort of thing.
Unbelievable.
So yeah.
So how's your stepmom? What's going on for your family at your house?
Well, they went back to the house, and they were in the house, and then Dad was out helping Nan and Pop put sandbags up at their place, trying to stop the water. But it had come up too quick, so Dad turned around and tried coming home to the ute, was struggling to get back, but he made it back, but couldn't get into the house, so he got washed down to another place.
What do you mean washed?
Like the water just moved him.
In the car?
He got out of the ute, but then he just ended up going down slowly and got someone else's house.
So we're like, we're not going to get through that. There was a bloke, he's got a tipper truck, which is, fairly high enough and heavy. And pretty much started on Pye Street, went down sort of as far as the truck could go and as far as we could walk. Like we were in sort of, chest height water, grabbing a few people out of their houses, and didn't even realise until after the flood that this house that we rescued people out of was pushed on its stumps and they were inside it when it moved, which that'd be pretty scary. So we grabbed them people out and put them on the truck, got back up sort of to here, and then went down the next street and then just sort of worked our way down the streets as far as we could get before it was too deep and too dangerous.
Yeah, you're making incredibly intelligent decisions in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah, and also we got a lot more older, wiser blokes than me yelling at me, going, "Don't you dare go in there," So otherwise, I probably would have, I was.
But even to listen to them in
Yeah.
those moments,
Yeah,
I just think the way the both of you handled that situation and the way you played it out in a safe but bold and courageous way is quite amazing.
So after the water had sort of dropped to about waist height throughout the town, like further down them streets, that's when we sort of took the fire truck and still getting people out, because obviously at this point there's no communication whatsoever at all. All we had was 000. So
You weren't able to contact each other on mobile phones? Why not?
nothing. Towers were down. So
As soon as it happened, the towers went down.
yeah. So we pretty much, it was, we didn't know there was another wave coming. We didn't know it was going to get higher. Like you didn't know. Like it wasn't far from coming in this showground, and this is where everyone was. And yeah, so we eventually got down there and was grabbing kids out of houses. I had a kid in each arm, and an elderly lady sort of held on to me and
Held on to you while you've got the two kids?
yeah, sort of held on to my arm.
And then you've got
she had another lady on her side, the other side of her.
And you're walking through the water current?
Yeah, and we had that fire truck full with people. We had my mate, who's the same age as me. He was up on his roof along with his family were up there too with him, and and he was still on his roof. And I walked up to his house and I said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "If I could walk it, surely you could get down and walk." He's like, "Oh, I didn't think of that." He's like, "I'm waiting for the chopper." I don't know, he probably just wanted a chopper ride. Anyways, he got down and got in the fire truck and helped us to go into houses and grab people out and whatnot. So
Okay. You put him to work.
yeah, I was like, "What are you doing, mate?" Like, "You're not having a go." Anyway, and yeah, so pretty much saving more people, and then so stayed up the whole night, the whole of Monday night, and sort of, because obviously we had lots of choppers coming in. There was 13 choppers at one point, and there was RFS blokes and whatnot coming in and supplies and stuff. So I was constantly running backwards and forwards in this chute from the pavilion over to the field to meet the choppers and collect stuff, because at SES there was no vehicles here. Yeah, anyway, so I stayed awake that whole night and just, made sure everything went smoothly and helping people and moving stuff. And yeah.
What does anything prepare you for that kind of an event? Did you, just say you trained in the ADF or something, and something like this happens, you go into Watermatic because you've had that training.
Yeah.
What training or background or experience, how did you know how to kind of play that out?
Probably a smart ass answer, but common sense.
Yeah.
That's just what you did.
Could you got in a boat, were people using tinnies, like in Lismore, they had the tinny army and they were going all over the joint picking up people. Could you do that?
No.
Every boat got washed away.
Well, yeah, that, and it's just too fast, way too fast. Nothing like, I don't know, I had a closer look at Lismore and what happens there, but from what I've seen, the current is nothing like what it was here. To be able to lift a house and send it like quicker than you could run down a street and pull up on a power pole, it's like, you wouldn't, the SES weren't going to send a tinny out, and even all the the older blokes who stuffing around in tinnies in the river and whatnot said, no, there's no way you get a tinny anywhere. So yeah.
So have you got a rough calculation on how many people jumped in the tipper or the fire truck during your jaunts around picking people up?
Me and Tommy, between us, sort of, we're pretty much together the whole time, but 30 odd people, and then dogs and animals.
Have you
horses.
thought through the fact that some of those people quite possibly wouldn't be here?
A lot of the people that we saved were probably all right, but it was just more the fact of the unknown that
this could happen, but so let's just...
it could get a whole lot worse.
So what's your place look like now?
Oh, stripped. You can go in one corner and see down the other end, all the walls are out and everything's out of the house.
Right. Where are you living?
Well, for a bit we'll stay in because Nan and Pop, they've got the 2 houses and one up the hill, and it didn't get affected by the water, so we ended up staying up there for a little bit. And then we got 2 caravans. Now we're staying at our actual place just in the backyard with the caravans.
Yeah.
So we can slowly just pick off and work at the house.
Right. Tell us about the cleanup.
Yeah, so pretty much the Tuesday, it just started, like, you know, everyone was just straight into it, you know, like no rest pretty much. So you just sort of picked a house.
Where do you start with a cleanup?
Next door, and then the street, and then the street after that, and the street after that. And it's
You get to the house, how do you
find the owner? So I know the majority of people in this town, and so, you know, you find the owner who's going to be at the house most of the time, and you say, what do you want done? You know, and a lot of it at that point was like ripping up carpet. Carpet was the big job, and all the furniture, all the big stuff. So, you know, they were sort of just pointing, saying, yep, that's going, that's staying, rip up this carpet, sort of thing.
Start at one end and wash it out the other with the fire trucks.
Yeah, and wash it out. Yeah, and so it'd been that way for the last 2 weeks up until last week. I went back to work, just for a bit of normality, I guess, you know.
Thomas went back to school.
Yeah. Coming home, charging your phone on a portable charger, and then the portable charger doesn't work, and then you sleep in because your phone went flat. And
Yeah.
Only you
sleeping on the air mattress. Anyway.
I certainly hope you never have to experience that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Even like what was it? Tuesday night after the flood, I went and had a bit of tea out at one of our family friends' place, farm out the road, and come back into town, and me and Tom, this was before we'd had sleep, and so I was like, oh, you know, I've got a dry bed that's, you know, comfy and whatnot. I was like, let's go sleep in that and get a decent night's sleep. Anyway, so it was about closer to midnight. I picked him up down the showground here, and we're driving back down Oberon Street here, and looked up the street, and I said, oh, it's bloody bonfires already. Someone's got a bonfire going. And I looked a bit closer, I was like, that's a bloody shed on fire. So we've swung the ute around, come straight back down here, went to drive one of the fire trucks, like, yeah, no, that one's out of the water, and then went to drive the other one, like, no, it's got a flat battery. And I was like, oh, there's a bloody isolator, there's a battery isolator on it. So I flicked that, and I ended up hopping in the driver's seat. So I drove this fire truck, flying down the street here, lights and whatnot going on, and yeah, jumped out of bloody fought this fire.
1 o'clock in the morning sort of thing.
Yeah, finished up, and I was like, bugger this, let's go to bed.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.